What's good, y'all? It's your guy Bendu, and today I'm coming at y'all with another video. And today I wanted to cover this Twitter thread that I saw on Twitter about China. So, as y'all know, I like to talk about China a lot on the channel, and not because I'm not going to say I'm not a China defender. I talk about China a lot on this channel because my goal is to point out a lot of the fuckery about China, and basically the State Department and Cold War propaganda that is spread about China by the Western governments. And my reasoning for that is one of two reasons. One, I feel like one of three reasons. One, most of the shit they say about China is bullshit, as I just said. Two, I feel like a lot of the propaganda they spread about China is used in a way to promote the new Cold War. And three, I feel they use that, an extension of number two, but still, one in its own right. They use it to deflect away from the internal problems that we have in this country, the systemic problems we have in this country. I feel COVID was a perfect example of that. Instead of talking about how, we have horrible infrastructure, we have horrible organizing when it comes to our healthcare, everything across the board failed with coronavirus. Instead of talking about that and talking about how we need to basically overthrow the system and completely reform, and not even reform it, change it, the argument just devolves into, oh, China lab leak theory, oh look, Jon Stewart said this about the lab leak, all this bullshit. Where I'm not one of the people that's saying you can't talk about the lab leak and not talk about the problems that we have internally, but however, it's always weird when, for the most part, the lab leak theory, I can watch Nico House and I can watch, different people talk about the lab leak theory. And I know, both sides of the coin, that yes, coronavirus possibly could have came from a lab in Wuhan. And also that, we have shitty internal systemic issues in America. But most of the masses that watch, for example, that watch that Jon Stewart clip and shit like that, they're not going to see it that way. They're just going to see it, oh, China bad, they're the reason why COVID fucked up my life, instead of, no, your life is fucked up because of the systemic issues of this fucking country. So that's why I'm so adamant about debunking a lot of this shit with China, because that's the mindset I see that is just running, that's pervasive in American culture nowadays. It's insane. Now, that's not to say that there isn't things about China that I critique, and things about, towards China, like the John Cena shit. John Cena was a complete cuck for that. You feel me? But the Uyghur shit, if you just read a couple articles and, look into what, for specifically Adrian Zenz, where most of the data is coming from, is talking about, you'll see that most of what he's saying is just factually incorrect. Math, if you just apply math to his work, it makes no sense. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and get into Shorty's tweet here. Now, I think she's Chinese. She's in the military, so take it as you want it. But what she's saying here is complete facts, regardless of what her fucking background is. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm probably about to butcher Shorty name, but her name is Wu Xiaoping. I think that's how you say it. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm sorry if I'm not saying it right. And this is what she had to say. For the Western press, at the orders of Washington, China is an imperialist power that raises the threat of war. In the face of this propagandistic delirium, let us recall a few facts. In order to exercise its imperial prerogatives, Washington has recourse to specific means, the identification of which provides a rational criterion for assessment. In their absence, the qualification of a policy as imperialist is at best a play on words, at worst a deception. What are the classic instruments of contemporary imperialism? They are military intervention, economic warfare, media manipulation, controlled coups, and imported terror. And basically, a lot of the, actually, you know what? I'm gonna talk about it now, just in case I forget. A lot of the imperialism, soft imperialism I hear spoken, that's what some people call it, especially people on the left, they call it soft imperialism. But from China is literally called making deals with countries. That's literally what they're saying. So China making mutually beneficial deals with, specifically countries in Africa and shit like that and everything. Oh, look, they're imperializing Africa through business. Through mutual beneficial deals that they're making with these African countries and shit like that. Even this, I'm pulling up this AFRICOM. 62% of Africans have a favorable view towards China. 62%. That's called a supermajority in the U.S. So this whole like, and then when you look at the history, like the colonial powers like the United States and the United Kingdom are literally why Africa is the way it is to this day, because of colonialism, because of all the years of apartheid in South Africa. Like, you want to talk about people destroying Africa and still are destroying it. Look at what we're doing in fucking Somalia. You know, look at it's unbelievable, the fucking hypocrisy here. The like, it's unbelievable. It's unfathomable that people talk about this. But again, this is your brain on American propaganda. This is your brain on Chinese, you know, on American China geared propaganda. And I don't blame the American people for this, because most people don't have the time to research it. But what pisses me off intellectually when I have conversations with different people is when I present this evidence to them, they still don't want to hear it. They're still quoting me Tim Pool, or, you know, fuck, even some lefties that talk about China, like, where it's like, yeah, and I'm pointing out to you like the evidence, you know, what they're using to back their argument is fallible. It's bullshit. It's toilet paper. But you know, people don't want to, people are incapable of facing the realities of a situation. So continuing, she's going to go into the economic warfare, all this too. A factual comparison between China and the United States from this point of view is particularly illuminating. Over the past 40 years, the United States and its vassals have participated in numerous wars: Grenada, Panama, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, etc., including in violation of international law. China has not been involved in any of them. So literally right now, we're sanctioning, we were sanctioning Iran, Venezuela, all, you know, and Syria, all these countries. We were sanctioning medical supplies, which is illegal under international law. You know what the fucking United States said? Piss off. And they pulled out of the international courts basically and said, and you're going to stop us from doing these sanctions. You and what fucking army, bitch? Literally, that's what the United States did. We're literally sanctioning food, medicine, shit they need. That's, you know, imperative to getting through the coronavirus. So we don't care about the civilians of these countries. We don't give a fuck, because we're doing shit like this. Sanctions kill. I believe it was Kissinger that said, or Nixon. Sanctions are used to bring a country to its knees, to foment uprising in the country against the democratically elected leader. Basically, to position the narrative that this leader is failing at what he's doing, instead of, no, this is outside influences, you know, creating the situation that we're in. And Venezuelans, especially the Chavista movement, they see this clearly. They clearly see this shit. So the United States has 725 military bases abroad. China has 1. So when you look at there's like a famous map of China that I actually have up right now, and you see all these bases surrounding China, with some of them with nuclear weapons on them. And China's the imperialist, the imperialist country. China's the fucking threat. Come on, man. Some of these military bases are near China. China has no bases near the United States. Literally, there was this thing called the Cuban Missile Crisis when Russia went to go put nukes on Cuba, and the United States almost took us to the brink of the apocalypse, of annihilation over that. But yet we do that, you know, willy-nilly. That's another Wednesday afternoon for us. Come on, man. The United States has a military budget of $740 billion. China has $210 billion. Our military budget is more than the next 13 countries combined. I think Russia spends like $68 billion, and China, as you see here, she said China spends like $210 billion. The United States is omnipresent in the China, as well as the British Navy as well, and the China Taiwan Strait. The British military is actually stirring up shit with Russia right now, being extremely irresponsible. The U.S. Navy is omnipresent in the China Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, while the Chinese Navy never patrols between Cuba and Florida or off the coast of Manhattan. Because again, the United States would lose its shit and probably take us to the brink of annihilation over something like that. The United States, but it's okay for us to do that to them. The United States and its institutions impose neoliberal austerity policies, privatizations, cuts in social budgets on borrowing states. China, never. So this basically, when they do this, when people take these IMF loans and shit like that, part of the stipulations of them taking these loans is for them to enforce these austere policies that end up fucking these countries over and impoverishing the fuck out of them and foments corruption within these countries. So they like to talk about how Venezuela is so corrupt, all these countries are corrupt. Look at what's going on in Colombia right now. You literally have people doing political assassinations down there like it's the fucking 60s. Same thing in Brazil. And we implement austerity policies here with our own people. We saw it during coronavirus. A great book I'd recommend you to check out. I should do a review on it. I'm actually going to start doing reviews, book reviews on the channel soon, because right now I'm reading how capitalism underdeveloped Black America, and I'm also reading the Communist Manifesto. So I'm going to be doing reviews on those books. I should do a review on this Angrynomics book by Mark Blythe, and I'm forgetting the other gentleman's name. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. It's like Eric something. I just remembered it, Eric something, but great book. I definitely recommend checking that book out. It's called Angrynomics. The United States imposes economic sanctions on 39 countries, blockades or embargoes against Cuba, Iran, and Syria. Again, even with medical supplies. China to none, except very recently in retaliation for measures taken by the U.S. and the EU. The U.S. and its huge, and again, when a country responds to the fuckery that the United States is doing, then it's on them. Then they're the bad. Then China's the bad guy, or Cuba's the bad guy, Iran, Syria, go down the list. The U.S. and its huge propaganda apparatus produce false information, especially about human rights violations against the states or governments they want to fight. China never. Like I said, with this whole Uyghur situation, if you read Adrian Zinz's work that Mike Pompeo, cited, and that has been cited ever since in all the media, literally just with half a brain, you can realize, oh, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Also, Aaron Mate talks about this, and he's alluded to this in his work, that it's very possible that with the 2013, I think it was the Ghouta gassings in Syria, as well as the Duma, he's insinuated in his work, and he's probably right, that it was the opposition, the rebels, the moderate rebels, that were actually the ones that killed those people, that gassed those people. Because you know why? Because they're ISIS, they're al-Nusra, they're al-Qaeda. They're all of these radical jihadis that don't give a fuck about life, that don't give a fuck about human life. They want to instill, an Islam theocratic country in there, but of course they're going to be a puppet to the United States. They basically are trying to turn it into Saudi Arabia. So they'll do anything to gain power, including shit like this, because they were trying to lure the United States into bombing them. That's a whole, I'd recommend, reading up on Syria to learn all about it if you don't know about the, specifics within the Syria situation. But it's insane. It's literally insane. So, but this is the type of shit that the United States does. The United States has orchestrated or tried to orchestrate regime change operations in many countries: Libya, Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, Honduras, etc. Libya, we turned it into a failed state. I like to say this all the time. The first Black president reintroduced slavery onto the continent of Africa. Same thing with Syria. We're paying, literally, like I said, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, al-Nusra, all of these, radical jihadists from all over the fucking globe. Turkey was paying people. The United States was paying people. I would reading the Timber Sycamore. So we're doing that in Syria. Ukraine, we literally overthrew the democratically elected leader there in favor of neo-Nazis. Max Blumenthal does great work on that. And Venezuela, same thing there. And installing this insane, mostly fair-skinned, light-skinned people in Venezuela are leading the opposition party. They're extremely far-right, extremely racist. I've seen videos where they called the Chavista supporters, the supporters of Maduro and shit like that, it's called them monkeys, all types of racist shit. So, and Honduras as well, it's the same thing. China never. The United States funds opposition parties or so-called humanitarian organizations in countries whose governments it wants to destabilize. So that's through things like the National Endowment for Democracy, aka the NED, and they even use billionaires and shit like that. So the right wing likes to make these kooky conspiracy theories about George Soros, and that in itself is kind of a psyop, because it deflects from the fact that this motherfucker literally goes in and throws his money around in countries that, like she says, that the United States wants to destabilize, and he does this in favor of empire, in favor of regime change. He's not doing it to instill communism or social, whatever the fuck they talk about, the right wing talks about, in congruence with him. It's all about empire with these motherfuckers, man. And that's what it is. The United States and its allies have trained, armed, and manipulated terrorist organizations to create chaos in others. Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, etc. China, never. And again, this is, we're doing this in all the countries he's listed there, all the countries he talked about previously. And literally, it just came out that the people that killed Jamal Khashoggi, they were trained by the United States. So the State Department directly funded these types of classes they took and shit like that, and some of the tactics they used to lure Khashoggi, to the Turkish base and shit like that. They learned that shit from the United States. And and then she finishes it up there by saying China never. So this is the type of shit the United States does. This is what they do. This is what our country does in our name. It's crazy, man. So this is the reason why I'm talking about this, is because they like a lot of the arguments I hear about China being imperialist and everything like that. It's all it's ridiculous, man. Just one, look at the numbers and how much we spend on military, and two, again, China is not out there overthrowing countries left and right. China's not doing that. They're not funding terrorists to go in and overthrow different countries. The United States does that on that's like a Tuesday morning for them. So it's the fact that, especially Americans, and I get why most Americans would say that, because they're ignorant, they don't know what they're talking about. But when you're presented with this information, I don't get how you can still say this. I will literally show this to people and they'll still be like, well, China's bad, this, that. Africa, they like to bring up Africa all the time, oh, they're colonizing Africa, this, that, and the third. I'm like, no, what they're doing is called business with Africa. It's called business, reaching out to other countries and making mutual deals instead of just going in, overthrowing the country and basically looting and robbing them of their fucking natural resources. Just because you haven't seen that done by our country doesn't mean that that's what's going on with what China is doing. China says, hey, look, we want to make you a deal that's beneficial for both of us. You can run your country however the fuck you want to, but we're going to build you a port so we can help you export the materials, but we want a cut of this or a cut of that. They make deals with these countries. And actually, according to this AFRICOM poll that I'm showing you right now, China is generally liked in the country. 60%. That's called a supermajority. Or it's 60 or 62%. It's called a supermajority. So it's ridiculous, man. It's insane, and the reason why I push back on the China narrative so much is because I'm trying to leave little room for people to place blame on anything else except for this fucking system that we have, the system of hyper capitalism, which is basically capitalism. Literally, this is the product of capitalism unchecked, of unfettered capitalism. This is why I believe, a hybrid system is what we need. I'm not in favor for going full communist. I'm not in favor for going full socialist. I'm not in favor for going full capitalist. What I'm saying is take the best ideas of everything and put it together and make something, that works. We've seen this happen in our past with FDR, but FDR didn't do it in an equitable way for everybody. He only did it for certain people and left out black people, especially mostly white people, which led to this, great American pastime that most people think about, white picket fence and all that nonsense. That was mostly for white people. To be frank, that's just being frank. So but yeah, but now with this China, and then we just found out they were gonna fucking nuke China. This is pre-Cuban Missile Crisis. We almost had a China missile crisis because all of our generals got together and said, hey, let's go nuke China. fuck the repercussions of that. Who cares? Oh yeah, maybe the Soviets might fire back. Who gives a fuck? Let's go blow them fuckers up. They were gonna do that. Oh my god, this is America. You realize it. Internalize it, let it sink in so we can make, do better. And look, I'm a person, I'm not an America thumper. Don't get me twisted for that. I'm not, I love the people of my country. You feel me? But this country is built on bullshit. It's built on lies. It's built on genocide. It's built on so much fucked up shit that I wouldn't be entirely, aside from the fact that I live here and I would have to survive through it. But from the ideological stance, I wouldn't be mad if America was to fall tomorrow. I wouldn't, because when you look at what's the fucking saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We're doing the same shit that we saw other civilizations that fell and societies that fell. We're doing the same shit. And people will point it out, well, this is how Rome fall. Countries just, they just fall. How about you stop doing the fucked up shit that led to that country falling and that led to our decline back during the fucking Great Depression era? How about let's stop doing that. Let's stop doing that. Like, I'm a bigger guy. Like, just to be fair, I'm a fat fuck. Guess what? I'm learning how to stop eating so much so I can lose weight and get healthier. Yo, that's what the United States need to do. Stop eating so much. Stop fucking going to war over bullshit pretenses, overthrowing these democratically elected leaders in these countries that don't want us in there. Stop it. It's not hard. It's not rocket science. I really don't get it. But people just want to, instead of like realizing that and accepting that, people just want to be like, China, like literally America's the fat fuck that eats McDonald's and Burger King all the time and then pretends like, oh, well, I eat healthier. Yeah, no, nigga, you got to stop eating Burger King if you want to lose weight, motherfucker. So I want to stop ranting because I'm getting mad. I'm gonna close off this segment there.
Well, as always, guys, like, comment, subscribe, and share. I appreciate all the love y'all been showing me. Like I said in the previous video, in my $15 minimum wage video in Delaware, I'm going to be posting, there's a lot of things that's going to be posted on the channel, like music and different things, as well as I'm going to start posting written work on my homie's website. His website is called High Media. I'm gonna link all of it once it all goes and gets in motion and gets into gear. And I'm also going to be posting written work on my Patreon as well. So like I said, I'll post all those links. The Patreon is my link tree basically, but I'll let y'all know when I actually start posting stuff on there consistently. So yeah, definitely look out for that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Peace.